I'm glad to hear that they are talking about all of that. That's something the library board really wanted to hear about.
All right.
It's surface water, like, yeah.
Yeah.
And also that the denial and the basis.
Phyllis?
Yeah.
Yeah, I wish I remember this word like before. Okay.
I just.
Yes, ma'am. All right. Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Tuesday, December 7th meeting of the Monmouth City Council from our new and hopefully very temporary home in the Monmouth Senior Center. First of all, thank you to Barbara Cronin and the active members of our senior groups who are sacrificing some space for not only administrative offices, but these proceedings. So excited to be here. And tonight we will start, as always, with our roll call from Phyllis Pullman, our city recorder.
Councillor Belts,
Here.
Councillor Carey,
Here.
Councillor Lopez,
Conference will now be
Here.
recorded.
Councillor McKeel. Sorry, I did that a long time ago. What happened? Councillor Oberst,
Here.
Councillor Salinas Oliveros,
Here.
Mayor Coons.
And I am here. This evening for the flag salute, since we're all here in person, Councillor Lopez, would you please lead it in?
Behind the TV.
Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our first order of business, the consent calendar tonight consists of the minutes of our last meeting, that of November 16. Those were included in your packet. If there weren't any corrections or additions, this is the time to announce those. A motion to approve the consent.
I move approval of the consent calendar.
Councillor Carey,
Second.
and a second from Councillor Belts. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. This is the time we have reserved for public comments. I don't see if Phyllis has anything for us. Any online comments or anyone on the call who has presented themselves to provide public comment?
I do not, Mayor.
All right. And I don't see that we have anything here and anyone to make public comments. So we'll move right into our business agenda. And this is pretty exciting time for us to get to honor our city staff for years of service and hear a little bit about the work that is done and present some gifts to them. So we will start off this evening. See if I can do this standing up. First of all, we have an award for Micah Palmer, and Micah is not with us this evening. He's already got his gift. But let me tell you a little bit about Micah. Micah, a very talented individual, is truly an asset to the city of Monmouth. He began employment with the city in January of 2016 as an energy services specialist in our power and light department. After several years of meter preparation, meter database maintenance, conducting energy audits, and processing EPA energy efficiency reports, Micah progressed into an apprentice lineman position at Power and Light. This program requires a great deal of study, testing, and physical exertion, on Micah's part, and he is currently in the 6th and final step of this program. Micah provides exemplary customer service to internal and external customers. He approaches his day with enthusiasm and is reportedly a pleasure to work with. Micah enjoys spending time in the outdoors with this Dalmatian, Maya or Mia, riding his motorcycle and just being Micah. So please join me, everyone, in appreciative recognition for Micah Palmer's 5 years of service with the city of Monmouth. I have a certificate here that Chuck Thurman will present to him. Our next, speaking of Chuck Thurman, our next award goes to Chuck Thurman. And I'll have you join me up here, please. Chuck has been with the city for 10 years, and I am honored to say that I was on that original panel. It was clear that he was a stellar choice to lead our Power and Light department, so I'm glad you've been around all this time. And if all the lights stay on, you can always thank Chuck and his team. In Chuck's 10 years with the city, he has reorganized department functions to increase efficiency to better serve our customers, actively promoting energy conservation, which has been so successful that it has kept us from having to purchase high-priced power, the dreaded tier 2, right, that we've always heard about. And with all this growth and the still stay where Chuck has developed a new mapping system. He also greatly improved the coordination of services between Power and Light and the finance, planning, and building departments. During his tenure, the electrical system has been proactively maintained. He has overseen several system expansions and improvements, not the least of which might be the new Power and Light building, currently home to several other departments. But also switching street lights to LED lights, completing several line replacements, including underground lines on Highway 99 during that remodel. And also on the Power and Light has extended power to 4 large subdivisions, 3 new buildings at Western Oregon University, the amphitheater, and Ash Creek Station. Power was quickly restored after a major ice storm in February 2021, thanks to the dedicated staff at Monmouth Light and Monmouth Public Works. Many customers of surrounding utilities remained without power for over a week during that storm. We were back up in 13 hours. Chuck also serves on the board of directors for several state and regional public power organizations. These include the Oregon Municipal Electric Utilities, Northwest Requirements Utilities, Northwest Public Power Association, and the Public Power Council. Locally, Chuck is also a member of the Monmouth Independence Rotary, a supporter of the Monmouth Business Association, and Monmouth Chamber of Commerce. Chuck and his wife Debbie also attend so many community activities and support many fundraisers in their area. As you can see, Chuck and his powerful team do an excellent job for the city and so much more. So Chuck, an appreciation for your 10 years of work and dedication to the city of Monmouth, this certificate, and gift.
There you are. Thank you. There you
We'll leave it.
That's great. Week.
Yes.
And then just one word,
Yeah.
or a couple words, one real quick.
Lord.
It takes the village. And without this village that we all have, we wouldn't be where we are, and we know that. So I appreciate your work as well, helping us be as successful as we can be.
Thank you, Chuck.
I am now proud to award this certificate for 20 years of service to Shannon Bell. Making Monmouth a better place to live is a common saying around the Public Works Department. And Shannon is one of the frontline employees that embodies this sentiment. The many relationships she has built, her knowledge of utility services developed over 20 years, makes her an important first contact for Monmouth residents seeking answers. Using her knowledge of the utility industry, she is often quick to provide answers to a wide variety of sometimes complex questions. And she wrangles the guys in Public Works like you can't believe. Shannon, her husband Mark, and their 2 daughters are glad to call Monmouth home. Shannon is very active in the community, leading a Girl Scout club as well as helping out with the Monmouth Elementary PTA. She can also be found assisting with community events like the July celebration and making spread. But most recently, Shannon has taken a very active role in marketing the My Town Skate Park projects, community outreach, fundraising, and public education, using timely and engaging social media posts and creating relevant informational brochures. And if you have extra cans and bottles, she is collecting them at Public Works to raise money for the skate park. Shannon's city career did not begin in Public Works. She started in Power and Light, where she worked as a utility secretary for 11 years. She was a child. Then for 3 years, Shannon worked at City Hall doing utility billing and customer service. But for the last 6 years, she has worked in the Public Works Department, where they have to keep her busy for many more years to come. Yeah. Shannon is an integral part of the department, providing high-quality service to the residents of Monmouth, along with providing staff support that regularly exceeds expectations. Her importance is easily confirmed by anyone who has had the pleasure of working alongside her. Shannon, thank you for all you do to make Monmouth a better place. You're welcome. And Shannon's gift, very personalized, apparently another piece in a collection of art that she already has procured for her. So, Shannon, thank you so much for 20 years. Thank you. And all the work you do. Thanks.
Very nice.
Miss Vivian. Come on up. This young lady is Vivian Myers. Vivian has been a stalwart presence at the Monmouth Public Library. Officially, the records of Vivian's employment only go back 40 years. But indeed, she has worked part-time, off and on, mostly on, at the Monmouth Public Library for 55 years.
Wow.
Vivian started working at the library during the summer of 1966 as a high school student, which at the time was located where City Hall currently is. She then continued with the library as it moved from that building and one that formerly housed the Monmouth Police Department, and finally continued working at the new library, which is now 26 years old. Vivian has watched generations of families grow up through the library with patrons who were once young children visiting the library and who are now themselves parents and grandparents, and who continue the tradition of sharing the library with their children and grandchildren. I like the way Chris put this, numerous, countless. I don't know how you could begin to imagine how many library items that Vivian has checked out, how many children's books she has put covers on and read, how many call number labels she has created and updated, and how many times she has lived through new procedures, additions, revisions, changes in implementation. And I bet you've really experienced some technology shifts. From written record keeping to online databases and library material changes from print to digital VHS videotapes to DVDs to streaming services and cassette tapes to playaway audio books and so much more. And Vivian has survived it all. Along the way, she created the Monmouth Seed Library, which has distributed over 20,000 packets of seeds over the last 7 years. Season 8 of the Seed Library will begin in late January or early February as Vivian continues to find ways to sustain this important community resource. With tremendous respect and appreciation that we honor you, Vivian, for your many years of service, not only to the library and its patrons, but to our community.
Thank you.
Thank you for all you do.
Thank you very much. There's been so much that's happened over the years, and, it's kind of bittersweet to see the original library is no longer going to, even coexist over there, but, it's been great. The city has done wonders for library service over the years, and I appreciate all of it. So, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, the other business this evening, which is to learn a little bit about the Monmouth Engaged University Community Connections Committee. Kind of a timely topic since one of their signature events is going on. And Erin is here. Are you presenting this, Erin?
I am, yes. I'm sending her.
And so we'll introduce Erin McDonough. Erin McDonough works at the university, lives in the community, and I think has been on the committee nearly since its inception. Great. So talk a little bit about the Monmouth Engaged University Community Connections.
Thank you so much. I think the last time I attended and we gave our update was also a night we recognized folks for their service. So keep doing that. It's like one of the best times to join city council meetings. So thank you. Glad to be here, and applause for all of those folks. So I thought I would just quickly share the members of the group and tell you a little bit of update of what we've done this year. I'll be fairly brief and then provide time if you have any questions or ideas for us. I would love to hear them and take them back to the group. So I'm clearly here representing the group. Our chair, Jen Bracey, has, I think, been the chair the entire time of the committee. Kristen Morrow is our secretary. Dwight Triplett's a member. Colin Hulling is our newest member, and I'll come back and talk about him. Stephanie D. Pascal, Emily Mensner, Emily McNulty, myself, and then I would not, we can't do this work without our city partner, who's Chris Ober. So I think she's in the room with you, and I just want to say a special thank you. She's been a great partner to us all this time. So she brings good insight and sometimes keeps us on track. So we're very grateful for her. So that's our group. We have an open invitation to the executive director of the chamber, whoever that has been. And so we're grateful to have welcomed Nikki the last few times we've met. So as you can imagine, I think we may be one of the very last still standing Monmouth engaged committees, if not the last of the four or one of two. So this year we actually took a look at our mission and committee makeup. and kind of reevaluated what we were engaged in. So you'll have to indulge me. I'd love to read you this part because I think it's important. Our committee charge and mission, as we've kind of half set for ourselves, this committee will investigate new ways that the city and Western Oregon University can work together and make Monmouth more of a college town. The University Community Connections Committee works to bring together organizations and individuals with interest and investment in the success of our towns and our university for the exchange of ideas. The UCCC recognizes that economic success, quality of life, and academic success in Monmouth and at Western Oregon University are interdependent. We serve to act as a connector between parties whose goals and initiatives for the region and WU would be benefited by expanded understanding and collaboration. We endeavor to instill a sense of WU pride and ownership within the community and vice versa. So that was our charge and mission, and you'll see what we've done for that. I'd like to share just a little bit. We wanted to talk about our committee makeup. We had a few openings, so we thought that was actually really important as we went out to recruit. The UCCC strives for a balance of those members representing Monmouth and those representing Western Oregon University. In each subset, we seek diversity. For example, from WU, members should consist of a variety of faculty, student, staff, and/or administration roles. Community members should include a variety of residents and business owners. We value a close relationship with the Monmouth Independence Chamber of Commerce and Visitor Center, as well as the Monmouth Business Association. The UCCC is an apolitical and inclusive group. So that was one of the things we worked on and kind of came to a conclusion. And I mentioned that I was going to come back to talking about Colin. We had a distinct idea this year of wanting a student. And it's so we recruited, and Colin's actually a Western Oregon University student, and he came and presented to the group. We've also seen presentations from Suzanne. I'm guessing Suzanne's in the room as well, about the local economic development plan. We had speakers, Dr. Kathleen Cassidy and Adri Clark, here from the university about the ACE Learner Lab and how the areas of emphasis overlap with the community, and that's career readiness, life design, and persistence to degree completion. We had Dr. David Foster come and join us and speak about the Masters of Organizational Leadership and ways to promote that program and internships. And the 3 levels of certification. We work closely with Nikki in her role and welcomed her as the new executive director of the Chamber of Commerce, and we enjoy when she comes to meetings. We had a great presentation by Colin, which resulted in inviting other members from Student Activities Board and ASWU to come and speak to the group about ways the community can connect more with students. I've got a short list if you want to hear them. They're kind of fun, and I'm happy to share those. And then, of course, one of our, as Cease just mentioned, with Susan Fuller's departing, and she was a longtime member of this committee. The idea for making Spirits Bright started from this committee's conversations, but it was really Susan being willing to own another committee that made it happen. And so we were really in honoring her and the work she had done, making sure that continued this year. And I'm so grateful to all those that came together to continue that new tradition, which is really centered around something that's been a tradition on campus for over 50 years. So adding a community component to that was really important, and we've just seen that flourish, and I think that's pretty special and adds a real layer to that longtime tradition. So I'm going to pause there. We're really excited. We just kind of continue these conversations, and I find myself often saying, oh, you got to come to this committee and present, and that leading into the tentacles of the community, which is great. And I think we see that oftentimes with things that are happening in the community as well. So I'll pause there.
Any questions about their work?
Will there be an opportunity when she's completed? Or I can hire a John
Hi,
Kerry
John.
here.
I can hear you.
You know, a couple of suggestions, and you may be getting to these, and you were no better than to pause with me in the room. One of the things, and by the way, the university was represented on our recent police chief search, and that was much appreciated, and both of the people provided excellent feedback. A couple of things that strike me that might be a topic for you to take on would be to make sure that the city and the university are articulating on COVID coordination. You know, you need to know what we're doing as a city, and the city needs to know what you're doing, and the residents of the community need to know what you all are doing as students return to campus. And we've talked about that, and I think that Marty has probably reached out on that, but you know, that ought to be a sort of a first thought while we're in this particular time. And then it's always been challenging, and we always talk about it, but some sort of a linkage to events. You know, what's going on in the university and how can we find out about it? There are mechanisms in the university that are designed to get that out. I'm not sure that they link with city resources. When I say I'm not sure, I'm just not sure. The Arts and Culture Committee seems to be a perfect example of that. There's lots going on in the arts community on the Western campus, and whether that gets articulated to the, you know, not just to the Arts and Culture Committee, but to the community sort of writ large. You know, probably because there's a mechanism set up for it, the athletic department gets word out a little better, albeit we need to find the right channels. So, you know, the articulation between the two can be tremendous. And there's lots of things going on in the university that our residents would be happy to take part in, and if they knew about them. So, and that's not new to you, but I sort of wanted to get it out so it remains on the front burner for everyone. Those two items. Thank you.
Thank you, John. May I kind of respond and give you some things to noodle on? I really appreciate what you're saying. And actually, after you spoke about the COVID piece, I believe the mayors and our president have been meeting throughout COVID, but it's interesting because it's back to communication. So how do we continue to take that connection and spread what we learn in those meetings out more broadly? One of the things that this committee has done, and I think you bring this up wisely in this setting, at the very start, right before I got involved, the whole focus was around calendaring. And they did a lot of research on creating a community calendar, or how do we do this? And what was decided was there would be links on the Chamber of Commerce and city calendars, I believe, with the university calendar and vice versa. And the university undertook a very large project that started launching right prior to COVID and probably didn't take off as much during it when we had to not have in-person events. And that's the website. So I'm going to give you this website. Please write it down, everybody, and tell everybody, today.wou.edu. That is specifically designed for the community, what we call the WU community at large. So both Monmouth independents, parents, students, prospective students. And as you can imagine, it's news, events, weather, all of those all in one place versus going to wou.edu, which is really our platform designed to attract prospective students. And that's what you find when you go to that homepage. So if we could get out into the community that the homepage you want to find is today.wou.edu, that would be great. And kind of, You can tell what hat I might wear at the university. So I'm going to toggle back to the committee, and the committee's role in this. They actually were quite instrumental. Marketing Communications Department came to the committee. They ran ideas by, they actually helped us choose the name with some, we gave them some ideas, and they helped us think through what it meant and what they would be looking for. So the committee was actually a really big part of the university launching that page. I really hope that you'll take a look at it, and we're actually looking at the structure of it currently. So if you had any suggestions, I'm open, send that to me as well. So that is a hopeful thing. One of the other things we're trying is links to events and cross-pollinating the two calendars, so that holiday tree lighting, for instance, would appear on the WU calendar as well as on the chamber calendar. Admittedly, that was the idea that's coming out of UCC, but it's actually telling people and engaging them and taking that action is not always easy. And finally, John, you spoke about the Arts and Culture Committee. It wasn't this past year, but a previous year, we actually had connected David Genoviak, our chair of the Creative Arts Department here, with one of the volunteers off of that commission to better engage. I do also think we lost some traction in that when we had no events on campus. So I think restarting those conversations to engage those two groups together is really critical. And I don't disagree. We have so many good theater, arts, music, dance performances happening on campus. The more folks we can get on campus, the better. One of the other conversations UCCC has had and tried to talk about, and we've had people come visit us, is about parking on campus. So that continues to come up because it's both a community issue as well as a campus issue. We haven't solved that one yet, but we would like to keep that conversation going too, both on enforcing the rules in downtown, but also letting people know when you can come to campus when the rules aren't enforced, or how to park for cheap or for free on campus, and how to find your way around. Those are all things that we discuss at this committee, and we kind of brainstorm different ideas. And I would tell you, I think we probably lost some, like I said, we had connected a lot of people, and some of that traction got a little bit halted over the last little bit, but reconnecting those folks and starting moving that forward again would be really important.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, John.
Other questions or comments?
It might be a good idea to get that today.wu.edu info to Independence and to the school district as well. I could immediately imagine Independence making sure that that's on their website, in their newsletter, letting folks know about it. Paying attention to the fact that while you are a Monmouth committee, that community refers to the whole shebang.
Yeah. Agreed. Thank you.
Hi, Erin. Hi, I have a question for you, and maybe this isn't what your committee does, but I'm wondering if there's been any conversations about Western wanting to become a Hispanic serving institution, and how the university and the community can work together to help make that happen.
I so appreciate that question. We have not started talking about that in this group, and I think it's we have talked about diversity, but I think that's probably the next step that we'll be undertaking in 2022. So I'm going to add that to the list, and hopefully when we give this report to you next year, we'll have had some really great ideas.
Great, thank you.
Because you're right, it's critical, because it's not just the the campus community that's on that journey with us. It's the entire community.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
And also, not related to the team, but someone on Aaron's staff at the university has reached out and asked the mayors to write a letter that would go out to every student who's been accepted to Western, welcoming them to the community, talking about what a safe place it is and how we hope to have them and their families in the community. The example she gave us offered some little discounts or opportunities for those families to get to know the community better. So Mayor McCardle and I are talking about what that might look like for us, get something together that we can put out to those students who've been accepted, and hope that helps them make their definitive choices.
Thank you, Cece. That would be great. I know I've had conversations with both Suzanne and Marty similarly about having the city, and they might have already done this because I connected them to other folks, is the city being present at preview days and some of our other recruitment activities, so that folks think about Monmouth as their home in addition to campus, even when we're recruiting students, not just when they come here. So if you think about how many thousands of applications we get that the students don't actually come. So we wanted to make sure Monmouth is and Independence are known by that whole group, because we think it will help with bringing more of them onto campus. So I want to thank both Marty and Suzanne for their efforts and connections with us as well.
All right. Thanks so much, Aaron, for joining us. And
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
for that group, wrangling the group. I appreciate that as well. So, thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Good night, Aaron. With that, we have one more item on our business agenda, and that is the second reading and adoption of changes to our dog license ordinance. And Janet Schnard, our finance director, is with us from her new office. I don't see any evidence of mold, of leaks, wow, look at that. A beautiful, safe office.
Sparkling clean, especially because our janitorial service was just in and did a wonderful job as usual. Thank you, Madam Mayor and councilors. Tonight I bring you for a second reading the changes that we brought to you at the last council meeting for the ordinance on dog licensing. And in particular, we are, as I mentioned last time, bringing current the language around service animals and basically aligning it with our practice and state law. And then secondly, we are also aligning with our practice the proration aspect of purchases of licenses. So nothing new from last time, but again, welcoming questions if you have any before we hopefully are able to take an ordinance and put it into municipal code.
All right, thank you. So this would be our ordinance number 1403. And again, this time I'll ask for a motion to start the discussion.
Madam Mayor,
One in your packet. Yes.
I move to adopt ordinance 1403 and ordinance amending Monmouth City Code, section 6.05.170 relating to dog licenses.
Thank you, Councilor Lopez. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Salinas Oliveros. Were there any discussions? Anybody have anything else they found in this after the first reading?
I'm always in favor of bringing our ordinances to line with state law.
It's a good idea.
And in line with practice.
Always
Yeah.
good to say.
Details.
Well, should anyone be watching, I just would remind them that there was considerable discussion on this at the last meeting, at our first reading, and So if we move expeditiously on this, it will be after careful consideration last time.
Thank you for that. Not seeing any other questions. I will ask Phyllis to do the roll call on this item.
Counselor Belts,
Aye.
Counselor McKeel,
Yes.
Counselor Carey,
Aye.
Counselor Oberst,
Yes.
Counselor Salinas Oliveros,
Aye.
Counselor Lopez.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
All right, ordinance number 1403 adopted. Thank you for those updates, Janet. We shall move into our work session. We do have a couple of items tonight that we want to discuss in a little bit more informal manner. And we're going to actually start off with a presentation with one of our very important partners. So Marty, if you'd like to introduce our guests and.
Madam Mayor, thank you. I'd like to ask Jason Saunders and PJ from MyNet to come and present about changes to the Easy Video service. And I realize that we've left our speaker tonight without a sound system here, so I'm going to ask Councilor, and that way you can come up to the table and give your presentation. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no,
Got a loud voice.
we're gonna change it.
Thank you.
Just why I did that, because I won't talk to my microphone.
Everyone hear me okay?
Take Councilor Carey's microphone.
Please.
You want me to grab that one?
We can bring him over.
PJ's just here as a witness. This is PJ Armstrong,
Yeah.
Intern General Manager. I'm Jason Saunders. Thanks for giving me a chance to address Easy Video. I first want to state 2.5 years ago, when we got in with Easy Video, we knew it was very short term. That being said, I want to give some facts on streaming services right now. 30% of all US consumers plan to cut the cord this year. Well, this next year. Nearly all Americans aged 25 to 34 watch TV via the internet. Netflix has 74 members in the US. Comcast, which is the biggest cable, but they also own NBC. speak on. Traditional TV lost over 5 million subs last year. Many smaller ISPs like ourselves are dropping video service this year or plan to in the next few years. Direct Links Board has voted to no longer.
We have YouTube TV. Some of the information that was provided was actually not accurate. Or some, like the Pac-12 network and some of those sorts of things.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to get those little niche things. So I think we've done that now.
Yeah.
And it's learning the new system.
And as we speak, what's happening too is a lot of, I think there's like 7 or 8 TV channels that are going away the first of the year, especially sports channels. They're combining, and so we're kind of at a loss with some of these things too. People called in about NBC Sports. I'm like, that's going away. And of course, Root Sports getting the Blazers, and so there's so much change in the industry. It's hard. I mean, but once you start with something else, it's pretty. I have Fubo personally. I'm a huge guy. I get the Beavers, Ducks, Blazers, Mariners, something else. That's a great one for sports. I think that's PJ. Yeah.
Well, my daughter had it, and she said expletive about it. I don't know why.
Any other questions?
Well, send my husband to your house to watch sports.
There you go. Yeah.
This isn't so much a question as a comment, Jason. I remember Don Patton sitting in front of me when I was in Cecil's seat. And so we're talking 7, 8 years ago now. And I said, cable will be dead in 10 years. And he said, oh, no, it'll be longer than that. Maybe not a lot longer, but it'll be longer. Yeah, here we are 7, 8 years later, and effectively, and I want to say I've been getting just nonstop communications from a couple of your competitors, and it's astounding to see what's in the big print and what's in the small print.
Yeah.
And what you think you get from the big print, and then when you read the small print and find out what you don't get. Somebody trumpeted 70 megabit per second internet service download to things like that. So the big picture, I've been thrilled by MyNet since its initiation. I probably would have done this before you all did. And it's the cable business has been cutthroat for so long, and the incumbents own so many of the pieces.
You're right.
And so when you're not an incumbent like you guys aren't, you wind up covering their bills for them when you don't really intend to.
Yeah.
And so, good on you. It's so much time. And I kind of frankly quit watching TV early in COVID, and I haven't been watching much ever since, but we have maintained the service through all this. So I have to step back now and figure out what I'm going to do. I'll give you guys a call.
Yeah, you're on our list.
Right. Yeah. No, I got an email from you today.
Yeah. And after your conversation with Don, about 5 years ago, he approached me and said, we've got to find an alternative to cable, which led to Easy Video, which led to,
Right.
It's gone away really quick. Anything else?
Come again.
Yeah.
We appreciate periodic updates rather than crisis updates, good news updates. You've got lots of that. So I don't know. You guys can work your schedule out quarterly, talk to the mayor. But it's good to hear from you. You're an integral part of the community, and
Appreciate that. Thanks.
we would like to articulate with you all.
Thanks for your time. Appreciate you having me.
I'm so proud of MyNet. When I talk to my family outside of work, and it's like, yeah, this is what we have.
Yeah.
So really, thank you.
Thanks. I appreciate it. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. All right. And our next item should be Mr. Cooper joining us on video to talk about the Highway 99W bike study project. Yes.
Mayor Coons, can I
Yes.
interject here? We had added the future of Winnipeg as the next item on the revised agenda.
Yes, I had a note about that, but I didn't know where the agenda was coming. So, we can, let's do this so we can let Russ go and
Okay.
that's okay.
No problem.
Highway 99, right? Excellent. So yes, the Highway 99 bicycle pedestrian connections study is at a point in the process that it's a great time to come and check in with council and show you the some of the work product that is coming out of that activity in the form of a project list, a draft project list. In your staff report, I identified some of those activities or outreaches that we did to get here. They included, residents, key stakeholder groups, and ODOT through that process. Currently, we're getting ready to do another online outreach effort where we're going to take this project list or a slightly modified version of this project list and some additional information and post it on our website and reach out to citizens and the stakeholders with a request to kind of look at a survey, look at the project list, provide feedback to us, and then also to rank each of the individual projects as a high priority, medium priority, and low priority. And then we'll take information from this next outreach, which it's going to go live in about a week, and it'll be on the city's website. And if I didn't mention this, we'll do email outreaches, we'll do Facebook posts, social media to try to get as many folks engaged in providing feedback as we can. What I wanted to do tonight is just give a real high-level summary of the project list, and then allow you time to ask specific questions if you have specific questions about the individual projects that are identified there, or questions that you may have about the process to get in there. So if you're looking at your project list that was in your packet, what you'll see is the first couple projects relate to both the north city limits and the south city limits. And the goal of those projects that are shown there is to, those are the gateway treatments, the flashing speed feedback signs, and doing a speed study. Those are all intended to make motorists aware that they are moving into something different than rural country. They're moving into an urban environment, and it's trying to get their attention to say, hey, it's time for you to slow down, wake up, and start paying attention. So you'll see the first few projects are related to that. As you come into town from the north, the first intersection is going to be Church Street. And Church Street, some of the projects that are listed there, there's two projects that are, one is a short-term project, and the other would be considered more of a long-term project, and a more costly, I'll add. But the short-term project that is proposed there is to install the rapid flashing beacon at the existing crosswalk, and then in the center of the two travel lanes, install a pedestrian refuge island. That would serve a couple of purposes, but one would be to try to keep the vehicles out of that area that we currently, see trying to use that as a left turn, southbound left turn lane. So that's the short-term improvement. A long-term improvement at that intersection would include widening Highway 99 to the north of that intersection enough that you could put in a center turn lane, center left turn lane there. There's also some, trying to improve for cyclists who are maybe less confident in riding on the roadways, trying to add some additional signage that would help to direct northbound bicyclists that are in the bike lane, how to get from that bike lane on the east side of the highway heading northbound across the highway over onto the bike path so that they can continue north. You know, before we leave this intersection, you know, for me, this intersection probably causes me the most angst of the projects that we have identified, and I'm hoping that through this next kind of outreach process, we can either enhance these concepts or just get much better feedback from the community on how they feel about these various proposals. So, you know, so I also would encourage council, you're going to have an opportunity to do the survey online, and I encourage you to do that. What I wanted to do with this is just give you a chance to be able to ask me questions, and you can send me an email anytime after this to ask questions, but looking for feedback. So then moving further south from Church Street, you get to Jackson Street. Really what we're looking to do there is, if you've tried to cross at that intersection, you know it is just a confusion of movement and activity, and so the proposed project there would be to install a high visibility marked crosswalk with signs that try to help motorists recognize that there's a potential for a pedestrian to be in a crosswalk there. It's too close to the intersection for the rapid flashing beacon, but is an area that we see a need for potential improvement in the crossing. This also could be a location for a pedestrian refuge island on the north leg of that intersection. One thing that needs to be looked at with this is that this intersection has a lot of turning movements, a lot of high count turning movements in all directions. And so when you start interrupting one of those turning movements, it has chain reactions and may cause other issues. So that's the improvements there at Jackson. Moving further south to Main Street, this is another intersection that we've had a lot of work done on it, but the meat of the project improvements that are being presented are for improving bicycles, riders' ability to move from the east of Highway 99 to the west of Highway 99 in the form of better delineating the bike lane on the east side of the highway, and also showing better signage and asphalt markings for how they transition from a bike lane there into a Sharrow environment on the west side of the highway. Moving further south, let's see, we get down to Madrona, the Madrona crosswalk, and improving that intersection. The project list, just summarizing that, is to take the existing crosswalk and delete it, move it to the south side of that intersection, or the Dairy Queen side of the intersection, install the rapid flashing beacon, a pedestrian refuge island in the middle of that turn lane, and I think that pretty well summarizes the improvements there. And then moving further south to Gwynn Street, I think what the stakeholder group has the direction that they've given with that intersection is consultant look at this intersection, and when that intersection is fully developed and Gwynn Street gets pushed through to the east, what improvements should we get in that design and ensure that are a part of that? And I think what it recommends is a high visibility crosswalk at that intersection, and an effort to get vehicles slowed down before they get to that intersection. One other just small kind of corridor wide project would be to look at each of the marked crossings and do what they call an illumination study, where they just look at the lighting at night and make sure that it is the best, safest for the pedestrians that are using those environments. So that's a real, just brief summary highlight of each of the projects. I'm happy to dive into the detail, but I didn't want to start with the detail and be here till 10 o'clock at night.
So I have a question. For so long, I mean, I don't think it's hard to say what the priorities are. We know, right? We have heard millions of times about how everybody wants rapid flashing beacons at both Church and Madrona. They don't understand why we don't already have those. And frankly, I think I've heard and repeated that we wouldn't likely get approval for both from ODOT, that would be too many interruptions, as you say. But ODOT helped with this list, right?
Yes,
So-
it's the benefit of time and I guess what I would call leaning in and continuing to do the body blow. We keep pushing for this, and then also ODOT themselves are being challenged both internally to better be responsive to multimodal use of the corridor, of their own transportation network. And so what, even a year ago, they required a 1,200, I think it was 1,200 feet, or I don't remember the distance, but it was basically out to Weimar if you're looking from Main Street out, that was too close for a rapid flashing beacon. And they have now, they're in the process, I'll call it. It was kind of fun to even hear them struggle as we're doing this study with them, struggle with having to acknowledge that, yes, it is right to use that treatment at the Madrona intersection. And so we have, we've got a pretty good comfort level that they support that as a treatment for that intersection.
Yeah. Madam Mayor, I was on the walk tour with the ODOT folks. And when we got to that Madrona intersection, one of the people from ODOT, and I can't remember what piece of the organization she represented, that indicated that in certain instances, that 1,200 feet is now down to 300 feet. And it's all around making things more accessible for bike ped. Historically, ODOT's mission has been move traffic, and particularly move truck traffic.
Right.
And asking trucks to slow down, asking trucks to, stop for actual pedestrians was just not on the list. And things like this tend to be like a pendulum. And I think we hit a point 5, 6, 8 years ago where the trucking industry was calling all the shots. And we're starting to see the swing back now, where other interest groups are saying, wait a minute, it's not okay to make this all about trucks. The rest of us have to use these roads too, and we all pay for them. That's kind of the attitude. And it was a really refreshing walk, frankly, with these folks from ODOT. They were focused in the bike ped arena, but they recognize the problems. They see the issues, and they I think were kind of horrified. They were at church in '99 at end of school day. They saw, what goes on there. And I think they walked away with their, jaws dropped by what they saw in there. So, I'm optimistic that we'll see some really positive changes out of all this whole process. Some of the projects they came up with make me scratch my head a little bit, but that's what the refining is about going forward. So, yeah. It's been a good process so far, I think. From my perspective, is trying to be a representative of the council, but also citizen rep and neighborhood, kind of covering for my neighborhood.
Well,
So.
and someone, Councilor Overs, modestly, who served on the State Transportation Commission and has worked tirelessly on these issues for years, it made perfect sense for you to be there, and I'm glad they're finally hearing that. This is very refreshing. Thank you, Russ. Councilor Carey.
Good work on this, Russ. It frames a lot of the ideas that you've been talking to us about on your own, and now we've got ODOT buying into this. So nice work on this. I want to comment on both ends of that, but I have Councilor Oberst, he hears this too, and you've heard it ad infinitum that these flashers are too close to an intersection. We can't have them there.
Too close to the signal is the issue.
Too close to the signal. But what I would like to ask one of those people is, what does the flasher indicate? It indicates someone approaching a site or a crosswalk. If they don't want to slow people down there, take the damn crosswalk out. This is simply an alert that somebody is there. The trucking industry should appreciate that, because they're going to come highballing through there, not see that person. And Officer or Chief Haynes has got a sting going on, and we're paying a lot of bills. So there's no logic to that. I mean, if a flashing beacon simply, because it doesn't say stop, it just indicates that someone is there.
Right. And people should be stopping whether there's a flashing light or not, if there is a pedestrian there. In fact.
Regardless how far it is from the second.
Every intersection is a crosswalk in the state of Oregon, whether it's blind or not, every intersection.
Yeah,
Period.
and so this is helpful to traffic flow, it seems to me. Okay, so anticipate that question from me to the ODOT person when they come in. Okay. Unless you've got it worked out before then, Russ, and hopefully you will.
I think we have that worked out. I feel real comfortable with it.
Okay, well, that's,
I mean, when they put on their list, John, this list that you're looking at is ODOT product.
Yeah.
Not Russ's. And when they say construct an RRFB with illumination.
Yeah.
Okay, these projects, the idea is to give them to the engineers at ODOT now and let them check off, yeah, that works. Pre-design these. So if we find that we have the money to construct them, even if ODOT doesn't, we can, because they're already approved. That's sort of the master plan.
We need to hold their feet to the fire on that.
Yeah.
I just want.
I told them my job was on the line if we didn't get them.
Well, I just want to thank you, Russ, for the body slams. Sorry, you mentioned body slams. Oh, good, I'm laughing. You're laughing. Okay. Good.
Lean in and keep throwing body punches.
Body punches, yes.
You know, I think that while the number of these things are good, for me, it's hard to get away from a priority number one and pick it, either the Madrona deal or the Church Street deal. Yep. Those are critical. And the Madrona one, and I think that was probably, well, their list. I think, Russ, your idea on that. And that'd be awesome. I guess I wonder a little bit about on Church. And I go in and out of that every day, multiple times. And I'm wondering about the pedestrian island there with a flasher. While I understand that we've got that sort of hash dead zone right now, that's arguably no man's land or no driver's land. The reality is it is. And if we put an obstruction there, that would cause a left turn person to make a long left turn across. If you're southbound and you're turning east, that's a long, you got to go a long ways to get out of that northbound traffic lane. And so you stay in that line and cars back up behind you. That would be a plug right there. I would go for, if we can get away with a rapid flashing beacon without a rescue island initially, and then follow very quickly by the extension of that left-hand turn lane down to where we tried to get it when the original project was pitched long ago, so we can have a proper left turn into on Church. And it was good that they were there when school was out, so they could see the interface and the multimodal challenges that they have. So because everything else is a Band-Aid until we get that turn lane, and we got all the way to the bridge. So there's room, and you don't have all that way, but there is room there for that. There's right of way, there's everything else. So that's, I guess I would think a long time about the flashing, the rescue island, unless they are required to be linked, and then, okay.
And one of the things that came up when we were talking, and I was going to report on traffic safety later, was that ODOT won't give us an RFB if there isn't a refuge for the pedestrians in the middle. And they won't give us, if we have a turn lane, then there's no refuge unless you really widen it and have a refuge and a turn lane.
Yeah.
And I don't know how they feel about a thing like that either.
Yeah.
You run into that problem of the pedestrian hiding behind the car that's waiting to
Oh, yeah.
left as you
Yeah.
So, and one of the other things we learned is that they're really proud of their little curb bulb out with the green paint and all that to steer bikes across to the bike path. And so they would be hesitant to move the crosswalk to the south leg of the intersection because they're really happy with the treatment they've already built there. And that, if you moved it to the south leg, school kids have to cross Church somewhere.
Yeah.
And we don't have continuous sidewalk on the south side of Church Street. So that's a problem.
I know.
The whole thing, that whole intersection, one of the things I said last night was maybe we need to just let that start over. Because it has so many issues. If in fact we wind up with a development north of Gentle Woods Park, things get even more interesting. So, Russ started out tonight saying the first turn is Church Street. You come back in 2, 3, 5 years, it may not be. So, and that's my push with ODOT is to say, while you're doing this, don't forget we have an application on the ground right now for more streets to come out. So don't walk away from this thinking you're done. So that's been one of my pushes.
I'll just add the level of discussion about Church Street that has occurred so far kind of highlights that kind of the level of angst for me and the difficulty of getting this intersection right. And in my mind, if we get this intersection right, it is going to be the poster child for ODOT in solving problems all over the state of Oregon. They already consider how they're handling bicyclists as a pilot type project. And so yes, it's got some challenges and it's doing what's right, what ODOT will allow, and finding how do we bring those two together into a successful project. So that's where we need lots of feedback from folks on that, and probably some more brain trust at the table in this study group, technical work group, and with ODOT to make sure that we get it right for all users.
Yep.
I will also, some of the treatments to the north, the flashing speed sign and trying to get vehicles slowed down and people awake before they get to the Church Street intersection. The intent of that is also to increase the safety there at the intersection. When they put in those delineators, we ended up having a few more rear end accidents or near misses at that intersection almost immediately because of folks just not being ready for somebody to be stopped in the travel lane. So we can wake people up, slow them down before they even get there. We should be able to mitigate a lot of the rear end issues at that intersection if the turn movement needs to come from the travel lane.
Russ, I recall that you have requested from ODOT a speed study at the south end of town years ago, and they just haven't come through with it yet. Where does that stand, and can we get one on the north end?
So,
Both-
so I
both speed
I
zones.
actually pulled that study because of this study, knowing that what I wanted to do was incorporate the improvements, the speed study, all into kind of one project so that we get it all done the best way that we can, and also get the consultants, traffic engineer involved in helping to design that suggested speed transition.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, it's been a real pleasure having Councilor Oberst on this group. He is well-spoken. He is, speaks strongly about conditions along the corridor. And so he represents a lot of the key stakeholder groups, and he has been very active. So, I really appreciate his activity on this group.
What Russ just said was that I say things that he thinks but can't say. And I've had a really good time with this whole process, and Russ is ace at what he does.
Stay on him because
Yeah.
you're good at it.
Thank you very
Other
much.
than getting, beer and wine in Monmouth, this could be your legacy. You will finally get
99 beer and wine. I love it.
Stick with the beer and wine.
other questions or comments for us, knowing we've got a little bit more time to pay attention to this coming up through a couple more steps, but this is very encouraging.
Yeah, good work, man. Good work.
Everybody get on when we have the opportunity to go on and comment on these and take the next round of surveys. Everybody we had a turnout last time, but it was still only 150 or so in a city of 11,000. Let's get it up into the thousands this time of people commenting on what goes on. Let's get the parents at MES to go on and talk about the realities of picking up their kids after school. The realities of their kids walking to school and home. And that's the way we get action from ODOT, is when we make it crystal clear that the entire community says we need to get something done. It's time.
Yeah, we definitely want a good, diverse response, from folks all over town, all over walks of life, age groups, so on, and just make sure that it's certainly going to help me and the consultant group, kind of work the fine details of some of these projects. And I'll just say Main Street, the details of those projects they need to be refined even more. We're still kind of trying to work with ODOT and scratch our own heads at the same time on how to best implement those projects.
Russ, yes, a quick question here. The first item on your list, Monmouth Gateways, creating gateways to the north and south ends of the city. Don't we have something there? We do have the sign, we do have landscaping. I'm trying to envision how this would be different than what we already have. Would it just be more, or is it something completely different? We've moved those.
Yeah, if you look at the placement of the one on the south end, I think it's probably as accurately placed as you would want for a gateway treatment like this. We could do more. We could do bigger, maybe. We could use it to, for branding the community. There's a lot of things we could do. We got to keep it kind of at the edge of the right of way or outside of the right of way. There's certain things that ODOT certainly wouldn't allow. But I think a combination of some of these treatments, or, I think the flashing speed signs, a gateway type of a environment, those could help in that, okay, I'm moving into a new environment and I need to wake up. But even on the south end, you kind of move past that sign, and then all of a sudden you move right back into nothing but a bunch of trees on the east side of the highway, and it looks rural again. So
it does. That sign hides where it sits right now. You're coming in past Mar Brothers, and it disappears next to your person.
Yeah.
And it might be that the thing to do is reposition it to the north a little bit, north side of the church property if we could. I don't know. It's going to take more than just a welcome to Monmouth, home of Western Oregon. You sign to get people to say, particularly one that's in black and tarnished brass, to get people to say, oh, this is different.
Oh, I get
Get them
that.
to slow down. And
I guess I'm asking what that more would look like, right?
Right.
Because we do have something. I'm asking what more would.
Right. Well, the flashing speed sign would be a biggie. And
Gotcha.
ODOT won't put them in, but they'll let us put them in and maintain them and pay for them. Bless their hearts.
And, when I sat in on a meeting to talk about jake breaks with ODOT, members of our local trucking industry and police chief, and our judge, our municipal judge, the conversation about making the speed limit lower towards the north sign, because it's like, here's the north sign, but we don't get a lower speed limit.
Right.
They said tough.
Yeah.
That's that. I mean,
Until we
it's
grow
like,
out
oh yeah,
there.
that will never happen.
It will
If
we get streets out there,
if we
it's going to
get
change
good
everything.
streets out there.
for
But
the
at
north.
the time, that gateway sign wasn't in any way meaningful
No.
as far as
Right.
getting ODOT to
No.
require a reduced speed there, so.
No. So, and just one last thought. I have pointed out to ODOT that we are now a wider community of 22,000 people in Monmouth and Independence. And at this point, we have one traffic light on that highway. And I think it's probably important to get Independence residents to participate in this process as well, because they access this road. If they're headed to Dallas, if they're headed to Corvallis, they come out here. And we need to make sure that Independence residents are aware of this process as well. Because having, the more voices that are raised of concern about what's going on 99, the better. I love the project they did. They just didn't quite finish it. There's too many loose ends still that need to be addressed.
Hey, any other observations or questions of Russ?
We have an ace public works director. I want to say thanks to Russ for all he's done on this.
Yes.
Thank you.
He lives here too. And what do we say about public works? Where's my speech about Shannon? Making Monmouth a great place to live. All right, thank you.
Making Monmouth a better place to live.
There you go.
Thank you. We'll let you go for the evening and we'll pivot back to the video-ish world. Councilor Salinas Oliveros wants to update us on some potential changes at Winnipeg that tie into the loss of easy video.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mayor Coons. So Winnipeg Board met before Thanksgiving, and it was a unanimous decision to dissolve Winnipeg for several reasons. One of which, lack of viewership, no more need for cable, no PEG fees, the lack of technology. Winnipeg just didn't keep up with the technology piece. The streaming services, realistically, with the low viewership, who is going to stream Winnipeg? Also, the lack of programming. Right now, it's really just a repeat of programming that our citizens can get using other outlets. There's also no needs assessment. And so part of the 5-year plan that was just shared with the board a few days before our board meeting had included reaching out to organizations and clubs. But at this point, organizations and clubs already have their own webpage or social media page or ways to share their content with the public. So there really is no need for Winnipeg in that sense. And we felt as a board, there's no benefit. There's no real benefit to our community to continue with Winnipeg, to invest in streaming services, understanding the lack of technology, the lack of viewership, the loss of cable. And so we came to the unanimous decision of dissolving Winnipeg. And now there is a question that came up about the funds that have been set aside for Winnipeg and how those will be used. And are there questions about our decision as a board?
Yeah, go ahead.
Just looking at the intergovernmental agreement, just for process, I would take that board vote really as a recommendation because it does take action of one of the constituent entities, although, any one of them can terminate it. So that shouldn't be a difficult thing to implement if any one of the constituent entities decides that they want to terminate. Then I think it would be a matter, there's the kind of the unwinding of Winnipeg, which would be determining the allocation of the funds that are currently in hand, as well as any hard assets. That would be a matter, I think, of just, research and probably some negotiation among, again, the constituent entities, not by the board, but probably at staff level. So, it certainly can be done. And under the intergovernmental agreement, it can be terminated on 30 days notice. That's fine. I think it'll take longer than that to unwind the table, but that's just a matter of then of implementing the decision to terminate.
Thank you.
And a reminder about the funding of Winnipeg. There are two funding streams. One is operational funding, which has, for the last many years, been borne 100% by the city of Monmouth. We have contributed money towards operations that went to pay some salary, very minimal, went to pay for insurance on the hard assets, on the equipment, but very little, like very few expenses, but they were pretty much borne by the city of Monmouth. The other partners, Western Oregon University, has always basically contributed in kind, and their in kind was the housing of servers, the housing of the equipment that would transmit the content, and actually even some of the programming of the channel. The other funding stream is the PEG fees, and we've talked about those considerably. Those have to be used on capital equipment purchases because Winnipeg has it hasn't been super active. Those funds haven't been expended. So as our city attorney mentioned, determining what to do with the money is really those dedicated capital funds and the hard assets, which we just recently, for example, purchased a lot of new equipment because we had funds to spend. And so that work is done. A few years ago, a group that was comprised of the Winnipeg board at the time had talked about becoming a nonprofit. Could Winnipeg become a nonprofit organization and therefore apply for grants and try to really build the brand of community communications through a television station. At that time, the stumbling block was, it was determined, I think Lane must have worked on that as well.
And the independent city attorney, and Worcester too.
That there was no way to transfer the PEG fees from government entities to a nonprofit. Therefore, if they couldn't have equipment, it was hard for them to envision how to provide content and recruit volunteers and things like that. So it's just been in limbo for several years. And when I came back to council, I honor of all the work that Councillor Oberst, Mayor Oberst at the time, had put his heart and soul into Winnipeg. I wanted to try to revive it, but it is unfortunately, and there are PEG channels that are very successful. Salem has multiple staff members. They developed theirs such that when this technological tectonic shift to streaming and everything else happened, they were in a much better position to make that shift and Winnipeg is. So.
Yeah, yeah,
Even,
and
even Western has their own TV channel,
Right.
Blue TV. They don't need Winnipeg, they completely program their own channel alongside this. Go ahead, Councilors Leah Oliveris and Councilor.
Yes, I apologize for the interruption. I just wanted to mention that there was the question about equipment. You know, what if somebody wants to borrow equipment and things like that? And realistically, if you have a smartphone, you don't need large equipment to record, produce, edit, anything that you'd like, or live stream. So, so that was another reason as well.
Yep, thank you. Councilor Lopez, did you have?
No, Councilor.
Susan.
Yep.
So I always saw Winnipeg as a great idea that never had the resources put into it that needed to in its early days. As you mentioned, Monmouth was the only source of support for a long time. We had a really bad one-camera bad sound feed from City Council to Winnipeg, and our neighbors had multiple cameras and titling. But yet we were the ones supporting the outfit. And then, and part of the problem, frankly, was that when it was first formed, our city manager at the time demanded that the peg fee only be 15 cents per subscriber. It didn't generate enough money for Winnipeg to really do anything, to hire a staff member, to buy current equipment, et cetera. When we finally got it up to $1, when both cities started supporting it a little bit more, I just feel like at that point it was almost too late, and it would have taken a massive amount of energy on the part of 2 or 3 people to really make it happen. And those folks weren't forthcoming. I mean, you know, as you say, Rebecca, a smartphone will do. When we were talking about equipment upgrades 6, 8 years ago, it was, let's get GoPro. I mean, that's you know, that was going to be sufficient even at that point. And yet, you know, now you can do it with a smartphone, and you can edit your own on your computer at home, and you don't need Final Cut Pro to put out a reasonable product. You know, all those things. And so it was kind of a good idea that was, I'm afraid, dead from the get-go because of the lack of proper structure and support. It was a good fight to try to make it work at this point with no local cable outfit, no further peg fees. This, I agree. This is what you said. So.
And fun fact, it used to be stationed in a house that was right behind Dry Town Tap Station across from Master Appliance.
Yep.
Right there in the park was a small house, and that was where
Yep.
Winnipeg offices were, and equipment and stuff.
Yep.
So, yeah, so who owns the equipment? Is that Monmouth?
The equipment was purchased with the PEG fees. The PEG fees go to the IGA, the intergovernmental entity.
Yeah.
So really and truly, we probably each own a third of them. And that's why I think that sort of dissolution discussion that we'll have with our counterparts will potentially end up with, I mean, I would say there's a good chance that we could get money to increase the audio visual in our new city hall, for example, right? That would be a good use of the Monmouth shared pay fees, for example. And working through that would be something we need to do.
Something for Lane to do.
Yeah, you know, I'm sure this would not be the first PEG entity that has wound up business with money in the accounts. I think it's just a matter of doing some research to see what happens to those dollars. How we can we defease them? Can we apply them to other like uses? I'm sure there's an answer out there. I don't have it off the top of my head, but I believe that we are not the first ones to face this question.
Yes.
Lane, will the asymmetrical nature of the operating cost contribution come into that discussion there?
I think that would be a discussion between the cities, between the entities, yeah. Absolutely. And we'll have to look at the sort of the history of the source of that income. And I would hope that to the extent that we can reallocate it out, that we can sort of capture the same ratio or percentage in distribution.
Janet actually has that because
Yeah.
we sat down to talk to the City of Independence about their lesser participation. She collected a lot of histories. Luckily, we have that somewhere. But yeah, we have a few things to talk through like that. Like I said, Westerns use their in-kind a lot, although they have used PEG fees to replace some of their equipment recently as well, because they said, gee, this equipment is used for X, for Winnipeg's purposes. So, yep, we will get on that and settle that out. And I thank you, Rebecca. I appreciate your participation in that discussion and ability to help them kind of come to that conclusion.
Yes, thank you.
So I clap. It's like, it kind of loses impact if you're not on Zoom, you know?
All right, thank you. So with that, we will go into the regular reports. That was kind of our extended report on Board of Commission. Starting off with my report as the mayor, I just want to say it was lovely to be at the Western Oregon University 54th tree lighting. And there were certainly a lot of things about it that felt normal. We did have a Monmouth student, Ash Creek student, who won their essay contest, got to read her essay and flipped the switch to light the tree. She happened to be the daughter of an Independence police officer, but they live in Monmouth, so we got to claim her. But it was really nice. I mean, Western did a great job. The after events that usually happen, which are kids' crafts and all of our local choirs singing, didn't happen. But it was really nice. And then on Saturday, I really appreciate the efforts of Suzanne Duffner, particularly on behalf of the Monmouth Business Association members who put on Making Spirits Bright in Main Street Park. It was a sort of cold and then eventually very drizzly day. And unfortunately, even though we had some fun family activities planned, the City of Independence planned their Santa visit at noon on the same day. So we didn't have a large participation, but we had Caesar, the No Drama Llama, and they did not. And I tell you, we had a lot of great feedback on that. And the Polk County Fire District volunteers did their chili cook-off, made some money there. So
I sampled them all.
I did as well.
Twice.
Very pleased. Thanks to Phyllis Bowman for getting some of those things ready, but Suzanne and Liz Pongrants, I think, you joined the planning department of the city of Monmouth and you get roped into this stuff. But we were there taking down that stuff in the rain. I just really appreciate their efforts. It was great. They have more activities though. If you don't know, the Griswold competition. So you can go on the Making Spirits Bright Monmouth Business Association Facebook page and find the map of the businesses and homes that have entered themselves to compete for the best decorations. And so I highly recommend that. It's a fun way to drive through town tonight, and you can go online and vote for your favorites. I think the voting ends December 15th. And some really kind of fun things to still participate in to get us towards the holidays. So that's my report. And boards and commissions. What have those groups been doing? Councilor Lopez?
Well, with the holiday schedule, my boards and commissions have not met recently, but I do want to call out the upcoming meetings. The Mid-Willamette Valley Homeless Alliance will be meeting on the 9th, which is a Thursday, virtually at 3 p.m. The Arts and Culture Commission has moved their meeting this month to the 16th, which is a Thursday as well, at 6 p.m. and we'll be meeting in person here at the Senior Center. And MyNet has moved our meeting to the 22nd, Wednesday at 4:30 p.m., another virtual meeting.
Thank you. Other groups, other meetings? Councilor Carey.
Planning Commission met on December 1st and had two items of business that were, one in particular that was particularly noteworthy. There was a request for a variance in zoning requirement for a childcare facility out on Church Street, West Church Street. I think Christian Church out there, they've got a vacant modular building, and a child care operation in town and a much smaller facility was losing their lease, as I understand. And they will be able to handle between 30 and 45 children once they get staffed up and all the approval. We've talked in here about the dearth of childcare available in Polk County, and this is a real bonus. And it's in an area that will be excellent. There's parking, all of the, everything that you need to have, including open spaces and a relatively small impact on traffic congestion. So that was approved, and that's going to be great. Variance for the owner of the building that the Chamber of Commerce is in on Highway 99. There's a couple of other businesses that share that. And so they'll be erecting a sign on 99 and on the east side of Highway 99. And a portion of that sign will be an LED illuminated sign that can change message. Not going to be a scrolling deal, but it will be able to highlight events, making spirits bright. And then after whatever the time increment is, Western Oregon basketball or, whatever it might be that they put on there to promote events in town. So that'll be nice. There was a bit of opposition from a neighborhood, a resident in the neighborhood, but they were able to sort of work through a timing when it goes off and when it's on, and the LED portion. So example of community citizen input, compromise, and I think everybody walked away very pleased. So that was approved as well. So good work. It was an important meeting for the Planning Commission on 12/1 of this year. So that's it for me.
Yes, Councilor Oberst.
Traffic Safety Commission met last night. First item we talked about was the city I think in conjunction with school districts, has sought a safe routes to school planning grant for the MES area. There's been walk audits, et cetera, task force looking at the existing conditions. The focus has fallen on our favorite 99 in Church and the Sacred Lane and Church intersection, the four-way stop right there at MES, Sacred Lane in Jackson. So as you leave the school south at the top of the hill where it tees into Jackson, and the crossing of Main Street at Heffley. So the next step there is going to be kind of coming right on the heels of the 99 project proposals and, vetting by the powers that be, and then public outreach, saying, what do you think of these ideas, and seeing if we can move forward. There were some speed complaints on Whitman, folks coming in off the Fall City Highway and forgetting that they're in. That's a state highway. We have asked for a speed reader sign, and the answer, as I indicated earlier, is if you put it up and you service it, you can do that. So that's one of the possibilities, is we may see a speed reader sign out there at some point. Russ has a data collection device that lets him pick up traffic counts and speeds. And he found that for the most part, people are actually at or below speed there. Also, the second area was on Gwynn Street, west of Highway 99, between Gwynn and Warren, or between 99 and Warren, rather. And again, most people were in compliance in there. Each of these locations had at least one person doing in the neighborhood of 55 miles an hour in town. It just amazed me that, you know, people could get up to that kind of speed. At any rate, Chief Haynes indicated the radar trailer is going to be deployed. That seems to help a lot of people with this issue. Some people say, oh, let's see how high I can get it to read before I pass it. And that's why there's also going to be enforcement. So we're hoping that between the reader board and some added enforcement, we'll get the word out that speeds need to slow down there. We also talked about some of the other entrances to town where people are coming in off of county roads and failing to slow down, and could we work reader boards there? Russ indicated they're not cheap, and we have a couple of different models. One has already been in for a new circuit board once, and so on. So we're trying to sort through what to do with that, and can we in fact have more of those. The last one, if you ever gone in Weitzel Street, it goes in and it makes a turn left on Stephanie, but straight ahead is the Bramblewood Apartments. And people come out of the Bramblewood Apartments and they see somebody coming at them with no turn signal, because I'm not going to put a turn signal on, I'm following the street, and they pull out without yielding. And occasionally folks coming on Stephanie turn out on Weitzel also have that same issue with people failing, coming out of Bramblewood without stopping. So this is a work in progress. What kind of signage can we do? Can we get the Bramblewood Apartments to up their game with some additional signage, et cetera? So that one's still out there. The other one is the Parks and Rec Department liaison. I've been charged with staying on top of the skate park issue, and that kind of calmed down for a little while. The primary advocate got full employment, and so it wasn't being pushed quite like it was, and I kind of fell off the mailing list. I requested to be updated on that on a regular basis now, and I'll just say that in November we got a topographic survey of the area for the skate park. Dreamland, our vendor, is working on the 90% construction drawings at this point. We hope to have them before the end of the year. That's going to include the cost estimate and the materials list. There's a request out for letters of support from the Garden Club and the Lions, and there's been presentations made to the Lions and the Oddfellows and the Firefighters Association. So starting to try to get the word out. We have a number of groups and businesses who have indicated an interest in being supportive of any kind of fundraising event there. If you want to make a donation, we have, this would be a monetary donation. The Monmouth Independence Community Foundation is going to be the fiscal agent for the 501c3. So you can write a check clearly labeled that you're donating to the skate park, and I have an address. We'll make sure that that gets out. You can also make donations through the city's website. Those donations are anonymous unless you contact Public Works and say, that was me, and then we'll give you public credit. There's an ongoing bottle drive that works through Roth's bottle drop program, and right now they get a 20% additional credit. So a 10-cent bottle is worth 12 cents right now. They have already raised $872.70 with their bottle drive. You can stop by Public Works, pick up a blue bag, which will have a barcode on it, fill it up, take it back to Public Works, or just take it straight to Ross and take it to the bottle drop. And that barcode will make certain that the skate park gets credit for those. To date, they have raised in cash donations, bottles, and other fundraising activities, $8,200. So it's not a huge part of the cost, but it's a start. They are working on an application for the T-Mobile Hometown Grant. The corporation has committed up to $25 million over the next 5 years to support small towns funding community projects. So, maybe T-Mobile will come through for us. We're going to have finally a large sign at the site saying future home of, and we hope that will help bring more attention to it. And there will be another bottle drive event in January coinciding with that sign. And they are seeking volunteers to help plan and organize fundraising events. And as I mentioned, Parks and Rec tomorrow at night at 6 is the next meeting. Next traffic safety is quarterly, first Monday in March. Can't tell you what the number is, I forgot.
We'll put a QR code on the sign so that people can go right to the Monmouth Community Foundation website.
That's right. Hope to see that project moving forward in the next couple of years.
Councilor Selena Sullivan.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Coons. The Historic Commission met on December 1st, and I was unable to attend, but we reviewed a lot of the ongoing projects. So the mural, the Columbus Day Storm interpretive display, the National Registry. And so it was really a review of ongoing projects and where everything is at this point. And I should have a more detailed information at our next meeting. Thank you.
Great, thanks. And I had a meeting of the Senior Center Advisory Board in this very room. And just to set a higher bar, their council liaison provided lunch for them that day. And to thank them for all their work, for the disruption to their space here that they're going to put up with. But they were heavily planning the joint project with the library I mentioned last time, which is the grandchild craft project, mentor craft project that's coming up. And lots of fun stuff going on at the seniors. Is that all, I think? Busy boards and commissions. All right, and that takes us to our last item of business, which is a report from Marty Weiner, city manager, and hopefully we'll be leading off with the announcement of our newest permanent city department head.
Yes, thanks, Mayor and Council. We have selected our next police leader. So yesterday afternoon, a group of community partners and most of you on the council, including and also our neighboring cities and school district and fire district and university and our department heads joined together and met in the final step of interviews to choose our next police chief. I've offered the job of police chief to Isaiah Haynes, who's been serving us very ably as our interim police chief, and I'm very pleased to say that he's accepted. So we're really pleased to be able to finalize this decision for our permanent chief. Some of the strengths. Thanks, Isaiah, for saying yes. So the panel found that he's been bringing thoughtful and steady leadership and a forward-thinking approach and genuine care for the department and the community that I think are going to serve him and all of us well as he joins us as police chief. He's been appointed already. We're going to have a more formal announcement and swearing in soon. And for now, I just wanted to celebrate Isaiah and thank him for all of what he's done so far, and looking forward to working with him in the future. So, yes, thank you. Okay, and I have just two other items. One is I'd like to. I think that our city recorder, Phyllis Bowman, shared with you a couple of weeks ago that we received our latest population estimate. And if it hasn't, okay, I wasn't sure if it had been announced, because sometimes when I've been talking with you, you're like, really? What is our population now? So usually this number doesn't change from the original estimate, but we blew right past 10,000 population, and our population is now 11,142. So
11,000 what?
11,142. So I just wanted to make sure that noted, because I think we've been watching that for a while. So finally, there is a proposed state legislative concept for pilot funding to support city and county coordination on a homelessness response. And so I'd like to get some sense of consensus from the council tonight as we wrap up. We're planning Monmouth, along with the Polk County cities under 30,000 population, together with Polk County, to put in an application to be one of the pilot cities that would be named in this legislative concept. And so there's a representative from Bend who plans to introduce a bill in the 2022 legislative session, and 5 different pilot sites would receive $1 million each to develop a plan and increase services and increase resources to address homelessness. I've mentioned this in my Friday notes for the last couple of weeks, but we have a letter of intent that's due this coming Friday, December 10th. And we, along with the partners that we would propose, we're looking for the legislative bodies to just confirm that you want to participate in becoming part of a pilot proposal. So I wanted to just check in. It would include Polk County, City of Independence, Dallas, Falls City, Willamina, Grand Ronde Tribe, and of course, and Polk County is putting together a letter of interest. So just wanted to check and see that the council's got. Thank you for all of your nods.
Dallas nodded yes last night.
Oh yes, thank you.
Dallas nodded last night. Independents won't have a chance to nod, but they are fully in. Their council will not meet between the time we met as a group to discuss this. But it is a really great opportunity to tell the state we've already built the relationships, where we are already part of the Mid-Willamette Valley Housing Alliance strategic plan. There's a pillar of that plan to address rural communities. So we think we can make our case to the state to be one of these 5 pilot projects. Marty and I were on a call with other prospective entities as the League of Oregon Cities and Association of Oregon Counties was working through that. And they were Bend and Medford and,
Washington County.
bigger cities, right? So we're hopeful that we will stand out to be able to make this pitch. And it's a pilot project to give us $1 million over a biennium to do strategic planning, to start to address these things. And of course, the way we are in that room is not, well, $1 million to just plan, man. We will start doing it. We don't need 2 years to plan. So, but I think we can make a compelling case. Commissioner Jeremy Gordon and Britt Moe, Polk County are working on that letter. So with your assent, I will sign off on that. Showing the political will of the city of Monmouth to be invested in the project. Thank you.
Great. That's all I have for my report today.
All right. Any questions of Marty or anything? That brings us to council comments. Welcome any announcements, community announcements or comments that you would like to make. Councilor Overs.
I just want to comment that the fact that we're meeting in this room tonight instead of next door in Volunteer Hall is sort of a right in, where the community can really see now that this City Hall project thing is real. We're not over here for fun. We're over here because we're ready to get out of the existing buildings completely once and for all. So once we have a contractor on board, we can get on with things. And this just, sitting here feels good, because it means we're making progress on this project that has been talked about for 50 years. And we're finally ready to move forward. So good stuff.
Councilor Bell.
Yeah, on that note, I'd like to publicly thank city staff for what they're going through, because they either had to move or make room or sort. And I know it's going to be a year and a half, 2 years of cramped quarters. And I've visited the different offices. So thank you to city staff for what you're doing. I mean, we kind of did the background. Let's get this voted on. The community supported, but I know it's going to be, a little bit of a struggle for a while. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you for that.
And on that note, I'll invite you all to stay afterwards, because all of our council stuff has to go away.
So have fun putting it away, Mayor.
So he'll stay to get that done.
We will all stay in health.
Anything else?
You know, I'm just gonna say that for the last 18 months, at 7 o'clock, my wife and I and my daughters around and several of our neighbors, the Cables and so forth, we go out and bang our pots and pans in recognition of essential workers. And that started out when it was popular to do in New York City and other places in South Waterfront. Sort of died off in a lot of areas, but not down in Gentle Woods. And as we continue to hear about, and thank you for your comment, Roxanne, I think that's, I mean, our staff has worked in incredibly difficult conditions for the last 18 months. And now we're hearing increasingly about the demands that teachers are facing and the students are facing. So I just invite anybody, go out in your neighborhood, act like a fool, bang a pot and pan, and for essential workers. And if somebody asks you what you're doing, tell them. We appreciate the essential workers, whether it's healthcare, educators, municipal employees that are doing the job, that are made much more difficult by the conditions that we're in and have been in. So I don't mind making a fool of myself. So join me, even though I can maybe hear you, but that'd be about it. But, you know, celebrate people that are doing good work.
Councilor Carey, thank you very much. I would just add the clerks at the grocery stores.
Absolutely,
We
absolutely.
would not eat.
Yes, yes.
Well, and I'd like to build on that as well. And it sounds like we're all just building on what each other are saying tonight, which I really love this sense of community here. But to further support those essential workers and those individuals that have no choice but to serve people in person, no choice but to physically be present. And while it's wonderful to be present with all of you tonight, it's certainly different than it ever has been. Not just a different venue, but you know, the distancing, the protocols, the masking. I myself had intended to go to the tree lighting ceremony, but I got my booster shot this past week, which really knocked me down hard.
Oh, really?
It did indeed. But my sister, who's a COVID researcher with Johns Hopkins, told me, you know, that means it's working. So you know, the silver linings there, and I encourage you all, if you haven't yet, to go and make sure that you're fully vaccinated, you have your boosters, so that you can make it as safe as possible for all those individuals who can't work remotely, who have to be there. The teachers, the parents that those children go home to, grocery store, our city staff, and of course healthcare workers.
And transportation.
And
providers.
transportation. Everyone that has to do an in-person job, right? That you can't be truly distant.
And I had the good fortune to be able to read a piece from a guy who's involved in this research. And he was aware of Omicron about 48 hours after it was first discovered in South Africa, and was, you know, I've been getting some interesting stuff through this channel. And one of the things he said recently was that a certain percentage of people who get their vaccinations, 2 shots, are very poor responders. And they don't develop a strong antibody response, even though they've got 2 shots. And it tends to trend towards older people. You know, more of them are very poor responders. Here's the interesting thing. Booster shot, 20-fold increase in antibodies for very poor responders. So it seems like the third one is the one that turns the trick. So if you are vaccinated and you wonder about the booster, you don't know what you might be that very poor responder who benefit magnificently from getting a third shot. So do. The other piece is that so far, knock wood, Omicron seems to be more transmissible than anything, but causing less severe illness, which might mean then it becomes the vaccine for all the people who don't want to get vaccinated, because they're going to get it whether they want to or not, because it's going to be so endemic in the population. If it turns out that it's not as mild as initial things are holding out, then it's going to get real interesting. So we need to keep our fingers crossed that this thing stays mild. But it has so far in South Africa and other places.
We're not rely on crossing our fingers, but actually continue to use
Yeah.
preventative health measures in order
Yeah,
to stop the spread. I'm going to let Councilor Salinas Olivero speak. And then
Yes, no, I'm done.
Chief Haynes had a comment for us, didn't get a chance to, didn't want to interrupt to make it. So I'll ask him to join us back as well. But go ahead, Rebecca.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Coons. And thank you for ending with Chief Isaiah. I think that is very appropriate for this evening. I just wanted to thank Councilor McKeel and the LGBTQ plus planning group for a wonderful World AIDS event that happened on December 1st at Western Oregon. Thank you, Mayor Coons, for your heartfelt words. It was a beautiful event. And it was a really nice way for our community to get together, for our two high school representatives who wrote an essay. They did a fantastic job. So I just want to thank the planning and Councilor McKeel. So thank you for that event.
Good work. Good work.
Thank you. Yeah. All right, Chief.
I just wanted to really thank everyone, both for your trust and support over the last almost 9 months, allowing me to fill that interim role and continuing in this spot permanently. And I do not take this lightly, and I will say that I give you my word that I will serve to the best of my ability so long as I can. And I am just very humbled by this experience and excited to serve our community. So thank you very much.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Favorite comment was that he said the interim job has been like having the keys to your parents' car. Congratulations, Chief, on getting your own car. Let's make it your way. Let's soup it up. Let's keep it going. So, thank you. All right, and with that, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
And all in favor, please signify by saying aye.